Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, what's going on, man? Let's get to it. I just had to call that out before you did.
Yeah. Although, let me just say officially, thank you so much for this pipe.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Bryant got me this pipe for my birthday, which was a couple weeks ago. And it's from Dublin, Ireland. My ancestors come from the great country of Ireland, and I appreciate you thinking about that. And look at that thing. Yours is
you are welcome. I don't know if anybody heard that. I just hit the thing on the microphone. Yeah, so I'm gonna, this is probably not the best pipe choice dealing with this microphone in my face, but that's all right. I'm still gonna smoke it.
You're a lot better at that than I am. I'm still. Well, I mean that's because you went in with all your whole body. You just jumped right in when you decided to go with the pipes, and here you are.
Yes, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, and your
hobby.
I was talking to some of the folks at our anniversary podcast.
Yeah,
some of your brethren.
Yeah,
and they have been influenced by you in the pipe world.
Yes,
and, so you're having an impact.
Yes, there are several that
are there more now?
Yeah, that are enjoying it as well. So, yeah, I just personal preference, right? Pipe, cigars, or no smoking at all.
Right.
But I have found that I like the pipes a whole lot better than I do cigars.
Why do you think that is? Just curious.
So I think for me it's flavor, absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't think that the pipe tobacco is as harsh as a cigar can be. I mean, I remember days where I'd smoke like 3 cigars and I'd feel it the next day. I can smoke several bowls of a pipe any given day and wake up not even noticing it really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And probably, I mean, I would a pipe doesn't last nearly as long as a
cigar.
cigar.
I mean, you think about the quantity of tobacco in a pipe versus a cigar. You probably smoke 3 or 4 bowls before you equal 1 cigar, if not more.
That's probably has everything to do with it. Anyway, I'm thrilled that I got it, and I appreciate it. You taking the time.
You are certainly welcome.
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, all kinds of things are going on. We had a gender reveal yesterday for my next grandbaby. Maddie and Lance had their gender reveal, and now we know it's a girl.
Wow! Congratulations, Maddie and Lance. That is exciting news, and I think they have selected names. Are they telling what the names are, or is that going to remain?
Well, I haven't been told it's a secret, so shame on them if they didn't want it out.
Here
I know.
It comes.
Here Lydia Juliet.
Lydia Juliet. That's a beautiful
Isn't
name.
that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is.
I thought that was pretty cool.
And what will they call her? What will be the daily call sign?
I don't know if that's been decided for sure. I did hear somebody throw out Liddy yesterday. I thought that was kind of cool.
Liddy would be cool. I think that's one of those things that you never know for sure until you actually start to get to know the child, and then the name kind of pops out at you.
Right.
That's a lot of folks like that. They're named a certain thing, but it's not until the personality begins to come out.
Yes.
And then the name sticks, whatever the name is.
Yeah. Don't call me Cinderella. Don't do it.
No,
I thought maybe you were setting yourself up for that. Laying the groundwork. Here it comes. No.
I did not give you that name.
You're right. I called myself that.
You gave yourself that name.
I did. I admit that. Yeah.
And we'll use that when it's appropriate, when it's the right time.
All right.
Yeah. So
So what else is going on, man? I think we're still coming down off the high of having that live event, and then we had a guest, John Holden, director of economic development and tourism in Stafford. Had him on the last episode.
That was good.
Great guy to talk with.
Yep.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to that, check it out. Didn't talk as much. I guess we talked some about economic development, but he just some life tips in there too. So just because of who he is and what he cares about. So I thought it was good information.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one of those guys, kind of like us, that has been around the block a few times, and has some things to share. And I actually love talking to people about that stuff, and those who have been there, done that in any variety of ways. It's always interesting to get their perspectives on things.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I'm actually reading another book right now on Milton Hershey from the Hershey dynasty, and about his life. And I'm in the tail end of the book, the very last part. And he's in his mid 80s, and how he's changing, and a lot of it has to do with, over time, your perspective changes with age, and a lot of things that would really irritate him at earlier stages of his career just are not important to him anymore. And he's a lot more playful and mischievous in some ways. A lot of people didn't have a lot of up close and personal interaction with him, so he could sneak into a store that was owned by his company and get behind the counter and deal with customers as well as the folks that were working there, some of whom didn't know who he was.
So he was doing the undercover boss thing before it was a thing.
Yeah, but he was doing it
for all the right reasons.
And of course, back then they didn't have LinkedIn and Facebook and all those other things. So if you weren't dealing with, you see a picture of him, but
right.
A lot of people don't look like their pictures, especially formal pictures, like they had back then.
Right.
And so he could walk in, and he was just some jovial old man that was walking into. One of the things, this is just a funny story. He would go into, they had somewhere in Hershey, they had an ice cream store, and he just wanted to see what would happen. So he walked in and took his finger and stuck it in some ice cream and put it in his mouth, and he was thrilled when the manager of the ice cream shop tore into him, like, "What the hell are you doing?" And it was a woman, and she didn't know who he was.
Right.
And he said, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted you to do." And I think he was 84 at the time when that happened. It was great. Can you imagine?
Man. Yeah, being 84,
Right.
just not giving a shit and
Right.
deciding I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
Yeah, but how cool is it to just to listen to some of the things that you just said about how, as you get older, your perspective changes. You don't worry about the same things that you once did, things that used to piss you off. Don't, because I think you have a greater understanding, and just realize that there's some shit you should just let go.
Right.
It's not worth getting wrapped up about.
Yep. Just like we've talked about, at the family reunions when the old folks are sitting off to the side just shaking their head at all the stupid stuff that the young folks are doing because they've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's him. I'm interested to get to the final part of the book, the very final part of it, to hear how it all ended, because I don't know. I didn't really know hardly anything about him. Yeah. Maybe we should do some sort of profiles in success or something.
Absolutely. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Milton Hershey, good man. Built an amazing little community there in Hershey that continues to this day. I'm going to go check it out sometime.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've not been there.
I have never been
I know
there.
several people that have gone there numerous times, but no, I've not been there.
Yeah, I think we're going to go sometime
cool.
within the next few months. Check it out. It's because it's interesting. A lot of good life lessons and business parallels there. So anyway, that's not what we're talking about tonight.
It is not. Well, I mean, it is, because we've been talking about it, but it's not the subject that we have picked for the evening, or that I picked for the evening. I didn't really pick it either. My wife suggested it.
I have a question for you.
And I thought it was a great idea. Yeah, so what's the question?
The question is this. Would you consider yourself to be a giver or a taker? How would you?
So I think, personally, I think I have a balance of both, and I will, and I'll say that because with a little bit of hesitance, because I think some of the definitions out there of what a taker is, I don't necessarily agree with. I think I'm a little bit of both depending on the scenario. And once we talk about that, I think, my feelings and understanding of it and my interpretation of the difference between the two, I think that'll make more sense to you. But yeah, I'm really probably primarily a giver. I think we all end up in the taker category periodically.
Sure.
And I think we should.
Right.
Because, if you're giving all the time, you're not getting anything back that's going to help you sustain yourself so you can continue to give. It's not like you're wanting to get that stuff back as a payback. It's fulfilling a need that you have, so that it's like self-preservation, and somebody else propping you up, and I don't. I'm getting a little farther into the conversation than I wanted to this early on.
What are we talking about tonight?
So, we're talking about givers and takers.
Okay,
right?
There we
that's
go.
Based on your question.
I sort of lobbed that up there.
Hey, man,
you.
we got smart people listening to this, and based on your question, I think they know what the topic is tonight. I got faith in them. But yeah, I think that there's some hardline information out there in the
there is
in cyberspace about givers and takers, and givers being a good thing and a bad thing, because and I don't agree with this either. I read some information that said givers are typically lower performers, like at work and so on. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that.
Can be doormats. They can be walked all over and all that kind of stuff. So here's one of my takeaways in doing a little bit of reading and thinking about today's topic, givers and takers. And that is, there's those people out there who make these very declarative statements about what a giver and a taker is, and multiply that times any topic that you want to talk. I mean, there are people that come out and say, this is the way it is, and this is the way you should do it, and this is the conclusion of the matter. All that is crap.
Yeah.
It is absolute crap. And you were headed there already.
Yeah.
You were starting to say that very thing. So
yeah, because I don't agree with a lot of what I read about it. I do absolutely see a difference between givers and takers, and I think it's it's something in my mind. I believe in being charitable anyways, right? I've always felt that way. I believe that when you're blessed and you're living a good life, it's important to help others who may be experiencing challenges and in need at that particular point in time. I think that's important. And you also have to do so with no expectation of getting anything back.
Right.
However, now having said that, I'll throw this disclaimer out there. What I'm talking about is no expectation that person is going to give you something in return. Now, you've heard me say on other podcasts many times about the benefit of giving and what it does for you psychologically, physiologically. Those things, I don't think there's anything wrong with expecting that, right? Because it does give you a good feeling to help somebody else out, and having the expectation of that lift that you're going to get as a result, I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I think you're exactly right. And I wanted to say early on in this conversation that with respect to you, it is my opinion, and only my opinion, that you have a predisposition toward giving. But I mean that in the best possible way. And for those who are regular listeners and know who Bryant is, there's many elements of your life that are of service to others. Both professionally as well as just in your club life, your personal life, you have that predisposition. So, but that said, to the point that you were just making about, what the give and take in it all, if there's something that drives me crazy, it's something that it's when you give to a person and they're not really willing to accept it. That I don't like that. That drives me crazy.
Right.
If somebody's giving you something, especially, so here's a big one. It's compliments. It's a simple thing in a conversation.
Yeah.
You're telling somebody something nice about them, that they're doing something, and they don't accept the compliment. They want to deflect it. They want to not take credit for it. And I don't mind that if it's out of a true sense of humility, but a lot of people do it because they think it's cool to not take the compliment, and then it becomes fake.
So I'd offer a third reason
Okay.
that I've heard and I think is fairly accurate. I think a lot of people are not comfortable taking compliments because it's a self-esteem issue. They don't feel good about themselves, and so they don't know how to with grace take a compliment and accept it, and so I think there's some of that goes on too. And it's just like, recognition. There's a lot of people that are very adamant that, we need to recognize this person. We need to recognize, give them a plaque, give them this, bring them up in front of everybody. And I'm like, do you know this person? Because there's some people that that just mortifies the hell out of them. And while you think you're doing a good thing, recognizing this person and calling them out, you are making them nervous as shit. And if you're doing it because they're a high performer, they might actually start sabotaging their work to avoid that from happening, that from happening again.
Yeah.
Because they're so uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the compliment thing is all about a self-esteem issue.
Okay. I didn't. I honestly didn't think about it that way. I sometimes probably because I have some specific instances in mind.
Yeah.
And in the cases that are in my mind, I'm thinking about people who are wanting to come across as being humble. They're really not.
Right.
And so they don't take the compliment in a way that you want it to, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. But to your point about how what comes back to you, and this one I've done and I've seen done, and I think we've even talked about it before. It's just a very simple thing. In fact, it wasn't that many podcasts ago that we talked about it. But it was, you're going through a drive-through fast food joint.
Yeah.
You're going through Chick-fil-A, and you hand the person at the window the extra $20 and say, pay for the person behind me. And you just drive off. They have no idea who you are. They're not expecting it. They drive up with their credit card.
Right.
Ready.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And you have no idea who they are. You don't care who they are. You just know that you just made their day. And you made yours too, because the whole rest of the day you have that glow about you because you did something like that. So
right.
You get a lot out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example, and it kind of sets me up to talk about this, right? Because I think the giving and taking thing can be somewhat situationally based. So, in a scenario like that, yeah, you're absolutely not expecting a thing in return. You're just doing that out of the kindness of your heart to,
right.
Give that person a better day, just to give them that little lift. I think there are times where, in addition to, the expectation of that good feeling, when you're talking about a team scenario, right, or a brotherhood scenario, yeah, let's call that out, a brotherhood scenario,
yep.
and you've got folks that are regular contributors and contribute at levels higher than others and so on. There's an expectation that you all are pulling the wagon, right? There's no passengers in the damn wagon. You all are pulling the wagon.
Right.
And the people that are pulling the wagon, those are people that are giving, right? Because they're giving their time, their energy, their talents, their treasures to accomplish whatever mission it is that you're out there to accomplish, right? And at the same time, there are those occasions when, people that are primarily in that giving category might have difficult times themselves, and they might need to jump in the wagon for a little while.
Right.
And they might need to have folks carry them a little bit along the way. And sometimes that's difficult for people that are really dominant in the giving category to accept that help from other people. And it's a humility thing, I think, maybe, and a pride thing too, right? So that's a little bit challenging sometimes. And you also have to, from a holistic perspective, standing back watching this group dynamic, you've got to lead for that. And I don't say manage, because I don't believe you manage people. You lead people. Manage stuff, lead people. And so when you're looking at that scenario, you got to know that, all right, Schmuckatelli here, he spends a lot of time riding in the wagon. I need to have a talk with him.
Right.
Get your ass out there and do some more giving. You're doing way too much taking, right? Because you're riding the wagon, you're taking.
Right.
And yeah, so there are those scenarios where, you kind of go back and forth, and sometimes, people that are primarily givers and need to, step back and be in the taker category. And this is, this is not that norm of a taker that is, you'll find a definition out there on the internet for and so on. This is just somebody that, is now needing to consume some of the goodness that they often contribute to. And it's, sometimes you got to help them out. And,
Yep.
and you have to help them be willing to accept it, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, the word that I had written down and that I think applies to what you're just talking about, like so many other things in life that we deal with, it oftentimes boils down to balance. Sometimes you need to be the giver and sometimes you need to be the taker. And when it's time for you to be the taker because you're down and out, something happened, some event in life has taken your legs out temporarily and you have to be in that receiving mode,
right.
then you need to allow folks to do that. That was a perfect statement. One of the things about takers that I have the great joy in my current life of enjoying in I'm trying to get there. Modern technology has created a tool by which you can deal with takers. I know some people in my life who historically the only times that they ever reach out to me are when they want something.
Right.
When they're wanting to take something. They're wanting my time, they're wanting my talent, they're wanting my something. And I now can see who's calling and just choose not to answer the phone. And in the old days that wasn't it. The phone's ringing. Back when we were kids, you didn't know who was there.
When that phone was connected to the wall at the house, yeah.
And pick it up and say hello. But you can screen out those calls. And if, I hate anybody to actually admit that they're a taker, but think about that in your life. If you are constantly reaching out to others looking for something that you need or want, and that's all you're doing all the time, it has an impact on folks. And I'm telling you, and none of these people are close to me, by the way. I don't have any close friends because they wouldn't be my close friends.
Right.
But these are more acquaintances. Every time my phone rings, and this can be for a period of years from these people, I know they want something from me.
Right.
And that's what it is. And it just drives me crazy. No balance.
Yeah, it's I think a good way to define givers and takers is, givers, it's a mindset thing, right? And givers, they go into a scenario thinking, how can I add value to this? How can I add more value to this person's life, this scenario? Takers, they go into the scenario wondering what's in it for them. What can I get out of this? I think that kind of really defines it, right? And if you've got somebody that's operating in that taker category all the time, right? Because there are some scenarios that you're going to do that, I think, and at the same time, if that's your primary mode of operation, that's not a good thing, And I look at you mentioned balance, right? So, I think of giving and taking like a balance in your checking account. If you're taking way more, making more withdrawals than you are making deposits by being a giver, if you're an overdrawn person in the taking category, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it interesting how people who are either primarily one way or another, they kind of stick out, and in a good way if they tend to be givers. And I'm thinking of another scenario. I'll tell a quick story without giving the name, but it's back when I was going through school, not through high school. It was past that. It was later, and we were with a cohort of students. And we had just come together to be together for a number of weeks to work through some stuff together. And there was one guy who just kept sort of popping up as somebody who was out in front, not out of any type of, I'm large and in charge and I have to, just wanting to help people. Just saying, hey, I saw that you needed, that you came here and you didn't have this particular book. Right. What can I do to help you get it? And all of these things started unfolding, and I remember, and as I was thinking about this topic, I remember playing through these scenarios in my head where I saw that guy and I said, that that is amazing, because what ended up happening is over time he ended up becoming this informal leader of the group just through his kind-hearted giving. But like you said, there are other people at that point who wanted to reach out and help him.
Right.
And it ended up a rising tide lifts all the boats, right? And
Yep.
so he did what he did, and then all of a sudden everybody started helping out. And it just made for a much more pleasant experience for people who didn't know each other. And you had one giver who came into the scenario and that's just who he was.
Right.
And he started giving, and all of a sudden everybody was helping each other out in this scenario, and it was.
I'm trying to think who this quote is from. You'll probably remember when I say it, but it goes like this: the best way to get what you want out of life is to help enough other people get what they want out of life, or something to that effect, right? So who said
Zig
that?
Ziglar.
Okay.
Zig Ziglar.
I'm
I'm sure others said it
Yeah.
too, but he was one that was really one of his real calls to action.
Yeah.
You'll get anything out of your life that you want, so long as you give other people what they want out of their lives. That's there you go. And
Absolutely.
and he's right about that. And yeah, that's exactly I didn't think about that quote until you said it with respect to this situation that I just
Right.
talked about. But you're right. He got everything he wanted out of that. And he was the one that was reaching out to help everybody. So it's a great lesson there, isn't it? Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So I think there are some extreme cases of givers and takers, and I this is one of these definitions that I found on the infamous Google or the web.
If you saw it on the internet, it's probably true.
Yeah.
It's
Bonjour, right? You've seen that commercial, right?
No.
I'm not going to explain it.
What?
No, it's one of these things where this is my I don't know, French model boyfriend or something. I met him on the internet. He's a French model, and this guy, not a French model.
Okay.
Yeah, like bonjour. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, that
Extreme
joke would have
case.
been way more funny.
Yeah, if I'd
Kevin
known what
knew
it
what the
was.
hell I was
Right.
talking about.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, so extreme circumstances or extreme definitions of the two categories. So this particular article described givers as empaths. Now, I think it's interesting that empaths came up 2 times in a row, consecutive podcasts.
Wow.
Right?
Well
So,
done.
I there's maybe more to that.
Okay.
And then described takers as narcissists. And I could see that.
Yep.
Because they're, givers are concerned about other people and doing good for others, right? Absolutely an empath.
Yeah.
And takers, for the most part, somebody that is primarily a taker and is in that category all the time, they don't give a shit about anybody but themselves. Yeah, that definitely falls in the category of a narcissist, I think.
Yep.
But again, I think there's people that maybe predominantly givers that sometimes fall into the taker category, and maybe only by definition, right? Technical definition, not by the spirit of it. And I think there's a difference there too.
Yeah. So take that it can be extreme, but it doesn't have to be, and apply it to a personal relationship. Apply it to your marriage. Apply it to your good friends. Apply it to your closest associates in your life. And think about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you walk away from with that, but there are many relationships out there where somebody is primarily the giver and somebody is primarily the taker. And I think that if that situation remains as it is for a very long period of time, it can really create a tremendous strain on the relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't periods of time where it's all one way or all the other way. That's absolutely natural. But if you are somebody who's constantly a taker all the time in a personal relationship, and the other person is having to give to close that ground, eventually you get worn out doing that one way or another. And back to another theory that I believe all of us are 100% responsible for our relationships. We're 100% responsible for everything that happens in our life.
Right.
I'm 100% responsible for making sure this relationship works. That'll tend to keep you away from being a taker all the time. I think it creates dysfunction, and Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be the one that always has to go, all the way to the other person's point of view and adopt and accept and become what that person wants them to be. Doesn't work.
Nope, absolutely. And it shouldn't work that way.
Shouldn't
right?
work.
I think we've talked about, you can't go into a relationship with the expectation that, that person's like about 80% of what I want them to be, but I'm gonna change that other 20%. Yeah, probably not.
Yep.
Not unless they want to. They're on the same page that you are. They want to change. Something else that jumped out I thought was cool about the givers and takers is that givers are loyal people, and takers, they're not loyal to anybody but themselves. And I found that kind of a light bulb went on for me when I read that, because it makes sense. And I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way. But our motorcycle club, one of our guiding principles is loyalty. And you can't operate in a mindset of loyalty and be a taker all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great value to have and to live by. And that's all you need is a couple of those kind of values that you choose to adopt for yourself personally, through your club, through your organization, in your own personal values. And they help you maintain that balance, to give both ways, give and take both ways. One of the things that I enjoyed thinking about also, with respect to extremes, if you want to have a period of time where you are just overwhelmed with emotion, take the time to go read about Medal of Honor winners in the history of the United States. It is freaking amazing. When you talk about givers, and these are many, many people who have literally given their lives for their friends, for their, the people that they're in battle with, and they have abandoned all sense and all sense of self, and given themselves away by doing the most incredibly heroic acts. And it makes you realize how powerful the human spirit can be sometimes. So there you go.
Yeah. If you think about it in your own life, and I think you mentioned this earlier, as far as your circle of people that you're hanging around, I think you can identify the difference in people by the energy they bring. It's like to me, the takers, they don't bring good energy to the room. The givers, they do.
Right.
And it'll evidence itself over time.
Right.
It's just, I think givers are happier people, and takers, they're out looking for their next, victim to take from.
Yeah.
So they're always on the hunt.
Yeah, and another thing that I appreciate is when there's a giver who does something, or you do it yourself, and you don't even tell anybody that you did it. You just do it. And I'm not talking about paying somebody's in the car behind you for their food. I'm talking about there's some event, there's something going on, and you just do something. You see something needs to be done, and you do it. You don't draw attention to yourself. You just do it, and people kind of look around and go, "Huh, that got done," and it wasn't done. And it's just interesting to watch how that all unfolds and what people do about it. And then, guess what happens? People start piling on and wanting to help out as well. Might be cleaning up after an event. Somebody just goes and starts cleaning stuff up, and all of a sudden, everybody looks around and goes, "Wow, that person's doing it. I probably ought to do it as well." Right. And they jump in and.
All right. So at the risk of acting as though I'm bolstering myself by telling this story, and I'm not. That's not the intent. What I'm telling this story because I want to ask a question at the end of it. I'll just share a scenario that happened the other day. So I'm over at a local gas station getting some fuel, and I see a gentleman that has a truck that obviously has a flat tire, and he's had some tremendous difficulty trying to change this flat tire. And the little worthless scissor jack that comes with these things has failed him miserably.
Okay.
And fallen over, and now the truck is sitting so low to the ground. He's got managed to get the tire off before this jack fell, and so the blown tire is now up underneath the back of the vehicle, and he can't get it up high enough off the ground to get the spare onto it.
Okay.
And it's too low to the ground to get the jack back underneath it to be able to do anything.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. So I'm watching this guy, and he's, it's 400 degrees outside, and I just, I pulled up next to him when I was done getting gas, and I didn't say, do you need some help?
Right.
What I said was, I live about a mile down the road. I'll be back in just a few minutes with a floor jack, and we'll fix that problem. And I did, right? No expectation that this guy's going to give me anything. He's just having a shitty fucking day.
Right.
And he needed somebody to help him. And it took all of 20 minutes out of my day to help this guy out, and it totally changed the tempo of what he was dealing with.
You bet.
And again, I don't share that to bolster myself. I share that because I want to ask our listeners the question: what would you have done in that scenario?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I know that I have. There's been scenarios where it wasn't you had an opportunity to help out and it wasn't convenient at the time.
Yeah.
And I've personally, I admit that openly with shame.
Right.
That I have decided or made the decision in the moment not to help when I was capable of doing so.
Just to drive away or whatever, or
and
not help. Right.
That day was not going to be one of those days.
Yeah, good for you. I have a good story especially for all you Strength and Honor folks that are listening. This is actually an observation that Paula made, my wife, that goes a couple years back. We went to Cravaganza, and you may recall that we Six Bears and a Goat were supplying beer.
Yes, I do recall that you were a beer wench that day.
I was a beer wench. I was,
and a damn good one, I might add.
I was a damn good one. But when you come to an event like that, there's all kind of stuff that you need to bring with you to get set up to start serving the beer and this and that. And we drove up in the truck, and we came up to our station, and we got out and started, moving like we were going to set up the booth and set up the kegerator and all of the stuff that needed to be brought up and hooked up. And I mean, it wasn't 60 seconds, and there were probably 6 or 7 people that were there surrounding the truck, pulling the stuff out. All Strength and Honor folks. What can I do? How can I help? Going to get ice to cool off the kegs, all of it. It was, and Paula was so impressed with that. She was like, wow, thought we'd come here and have to do this all on our own because everybody's off doing their own thing, and didn't happen. So
that's very cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
2 years later,
that's exactly how we are supposed to show up.
Right.
That's who we are. That's very cool that you said that, man. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
There you go. So that's just the glow of it. Like I said, we still think about it fondly. So when that happens, then you have that expectation all the time, and hopefully folks live up to it. Even if you don't, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
What you don't know is they knew that at the end of the day, they were going to get to drink some of that beer, so they didn't want that shit getting hot.
And it don't matter. It's all how it came out. Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, that's all right.
Glad you had that experience.
You bet. Yeah. Have I not told you that before?
I don't think in that way. No, and I don't know that you have at all.
Okay.
But yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, we've talked about it among ourselves a number of times, and it was, and yeah. I mean, I could go on, and I won't right now, but givers and takers. You got to have a balance of both.
Which one are you?
Which one are you?
Are you in that empath category as a giver who cares more about other people, or at least cares about other people enough to be in that giving category? I struggle sometimes with that whole terminology, caring more about other people, because I think you have to. That's, for me, that's a balance, right? So you gotta care about yourself, you gotta love yourself, and you gotta take care of yourself in order to be able to be a giver and take care of other people. So if you're in that giver category and you're just it's always flowing out and nothing is coming back in to fulfill you, beware of that. That well might not be an endless well. So pay attention to that and make sure you're doing things to fill yourself up too.
Yeah, and I guess the thought that I would like to make sure folks carry away from this is, so often somebody that will be going through something. There might be a death in the family. There might be somebody who's sick. They got in a car accident and their car is totaled. Whatever, some sort of significant life event, and everybody almost that knows that person will say, well, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And I would challenge everybody to stop when you find yourself, the next time you find yourself in that circumstance, instead of asking that question, just look at the situation and do something. Just do it. Don't ask. And even if it's already been done, or even if somebody has already taken care of it, a lot of times they end up finding extra use for that extra bit of whatever it was. And it might be, I don't know, bringing somebody a pair of scissors, something as simple as that. I don't even know what I had something specific popped into my mind. But no, instead of saying, if there's anything I can do, just let me know, because that is... Well, it's not. I mean, I think people mean that sincerely, but if you actually just look at the situation, think about what needs to be done, and then just do it, that will have impact on you and on them forever. You look like you were having a thought.
Yeah, and I think there's, it depends on the scenario, right? So, sometimes, and I think there's, words are powerful and words have meaning. And sometimes just rephrasing something like that, instead of saying, let me know if there's anything that I can do or we can do. Sometimes something as simple as, please let us know how we can best support you through this situation, or, just changing it up a little bit. I think that has a whole different meaning, because, different people need different things. I agree with your point, because sometimes it's just better to do something, and I think that's something that we can all learn from. Just do something.
Yeah.
People are gonna, they're not gonna get pissed off at you if it's already been done by somebody else, and if they do, well, what the fuck is that? You're setting out to do it with good intention, but when you're dealing with people in different scenarios, sometimes you just have to ask them, how you can best support them, because you don't know.
Yeah, years ago, when my daughter was born, came home from the hospital, somebody showed up with dinner, just on the first night home, and we had food, but we didn't need dinner, but we ate it and it was good, and the food we had was good the next day. It's little things like that people just did it. They didn't ask. They didn't say, do you want this? They didn't say, well, are you allergic to it? They just showed up with food. Said, here it is. It was really cool. I love when people do stuff like that, because there you go.
Yeah, no, that's cool. This is totally off track here, but it caused me to think of this. I got to say this out loud, right?
Okay.
So, and I know that, here lately, there's been a lot of giving to the local law enforcement folks, people bringing food and so on. And if you know where it comes from, that's great.
Right.
Fine, eat
Right.
that food all day long.
Right.
But I can remember during the holiday season, when I was working in law enforcement, you'd have all kinds of random people showing up, bringing you cookies and all kinds of stuff, and that was one of those things that we said thank you, very happy, and immediately threw that shit in the trash,
Right.
because you don't who is it, who are these people? Do they have ill intent? I mean,
Right.
the business kind of causes you to be a little suspicious there,
Right.
Unless it was somebody that you knew, and you knew that they're not going to try to poison you or anything of that nature. But
Right.
that came into my head when you were talking about that.
Of course, and when you're in a position like a first responder or a law enforcement, and folks do that, you're right. You do have to be careful, because unfortunately, there are people with ill intent, and they're intending to take advantage of a situation. But the scenario I described, of course, was somebody that we knew very well, and it wasn't that at all. It was just a very kind thing to do.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to put a black cloud over
No,
that.
no. But your point is well taken. But also, I know there's been a lot of emphasis on what it means to be the giver and all the goodness that does. But there's a time and a place to be the taker as well, and let folks help you.
And maybe in the scenarios that we're talking about, maybe taker is not the right term. Because I think maybe, and I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier in something I said. I don't remember the exact words that I used, but I think sometimes, it's okay for you to be the consumer in that scenario, or the receiver in that scenario, not necessarily the taker, maybe the recipient of the assistance instead of I think that's a little better than taker. Taker just seems to have a negative connotation with it.
Right. Nope. I like that. I'd agree with that. Well, there you go. Thanks for bringing up this topic and chatting about it.
You were certainly welcome. That's good conversation, right?
Yeah.
And it's good food for thought for anybody to evaluate, where you fall into that camp. What side are you on? Are you the taker or the giver? And I think I know, most of the folks I hang out with, people that I consider, folks that are in my inner circle, are in the giver category, right? Present company included. Because I don't, I get to choose who I spend time with.
That's right.
And I don't spend a lot of time by choice with folks that are in the taker category.
Yeah. It's funny how you wake up and you look around and you go, wow, how did that happen? That's how it happened. You made the decision about who you're choosing to associate with. And it's another beautiful thing about life. You get to control that. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I've appreciated it, as always. I'm getting a lot out of this. So
cool. All right. So what have we not said about this, or anything else that we need to call out on this episode?
I've said everything I wanted to say.
All right. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Then we should say this. After I push this little puss. Did I say puss?
You did.
After I push this little button right here, we're going to say something like, no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're doing, make sure that you take time between this podcast and the next to enjoy the ride and go be a giver.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.